Hello, and welcome to the video. This is episode 2 of 100 Moons in Swiftclan, Medicine Cat Edition. If you did not see episode 1, then let me give you a quick warning that there are going to be a few topics that might be unsuitable for all ages or audiences. Please be aware and take these warnings to heart. If this is not for you, that's perfectly fine. Maybe check out a different video. But if you are interested, let's get started. In one clan, where River Spot was born, she played her role as a scale stripper, a cat who cleaned fish for other cats to eat. It was a humble job, and not one she was dissatisfied with. At least, until the visions began. They were violent. The things she was shown were horrible. Cats larger than life, larger than the forest, looming over one clan, crushing the cats beneath its paws. She knew, in a way she had never thought to know before, that these were visions from StarClan. And she tried to tell every cat she could. There was danger coming. Everyone needed to be aware. But in one clan, such disturbances are not tolerated. But if you did hear her voice, and believe her, Hailfruit became her great ally, making appointments, trying to get her in front of the seers, the star speakers, the leaders, the deputies, the cats in charge who could actually make a change. But they were separated. One clan didn't want such speak getting out. They were to be silenced. They were to be hidden. The cats had already heard. The whispers began, and subtly, a sort of rebellion had taken root. And then the order went out. That separation wasn't enough. Watching them wasn't enough. They clearly could not be controlled in a way that was working. Not alive, at least. They were to be silenced. Permanently. The rebellion heard of this. Word got out, and at night, every cat who could ran. Not all made it out. Some had to fight, and some failed. And those that did make it out, not all of them chose to journey with Hailfruit and River Spot. And even those that did, there were hardships on the road. The journey was long, tiring, and not without danger. But in the end, the cats that stuck with her and Hailfruit, they became the founding members of Swiftclan. They built the home in the plains. They started something new. It was only natural that River Spot of all cats become the medicine cat. While she had little experience with herbs, her connection with StarClan was undeniable. Those visions that had been so violent, they unlocked something new within her. A secondary sight of sorts that saw beyond the world the other cats lived in. It saw glimpses into StarClan itself. Omens, dreams, visions. These things became par for the course for her. Some warned of loss. The blackbird and dandelion spoke of Black Song's fate. A droplet changing a tide spoke to Droplet Burrow, who would become an amazing warrior, but not one without controversy in the start. Visions of flooding rivers, terrible shaking of the earth, collapsed tunnels, fires. Not all of them revealed themselves in her lifespan. But all the visions River Spot had would eventually come to pass. It seemed like most mortal things didn't touch River Spot in the same way it did other cats. She fell sick once, early on, and never again till the end. But in between those times, she found love. Funnily enough, it was with Hailfruit, now Hailstar, that she found the most connection. In one clan, such a thing would have been impossible. It simply was not done. But here in Swiftclan, it didn't matter as much. They were two she-cats, and who would care? They were friends. They were growing gray. They enjoyed each other's company, and that's all that mattered. River Spot only ever took on one apprentice in her lifespan. Conifer Paw, a kit born to Inky Nose, who was River Spot's dear friend. Conifer Paw was a bright young boy, full of life and little attention. But making games of memorizing herbs was the way to his heart, and River Spot had hoped for a bright future for him. He was taken all too soon. When River Spot fell ill for the final time in her life, and for the second time in her life. It was hard. She had no apprentice, no fellow medicine cat to care for her. She cared for herself. Well, what little she could. The fever claimed her soon, and in that fever she saw visions of the future. Things she couldn't understand, things she couldn't stop, things that would haunt her, things that weakened her. But she knew there was nothing she could do about these visions. Even if she told the clan about them, it would only worry them, make them paranoid for a future that they could not change or predict. She kept these visions to herself, secret from Hailfruit. Well, Hailstar. She never quite got used to calling her mate Star of all things. And when the fire came, she knew. She didn't try to run. She didn't try to fight. She accepted what was to come and said goodbye. Conifer Paw was born to Inky Nose and Popfur in a litter of 6 kittens. His siblings being Frond Kit, Garlic Kit, Flutter Kit, and Elk Kit were all deeply adorable cats. But he never felt overshadowed or overlooked in the little monstrosity of his litter. Because Conifer Paw, well, he was the trouble in that litter. Always trying to do things he definitely should not have been doing, and coaxing his siblings to join him. Because of his attitude as a kitten, everyone thought he would definitely grow up to be a warrior, a rather bold one at that. So when he decided to become a medicine cat apprentice, well, it took more than a few cats by surprise. But Inky Nose had a slight inclination beforehand. While Inky Nose had had some trouble bonding with his litter as a whole, he had noticed that Conifer Paw of all cats had a tender spot, an inkling towards kindness that wouldn't work well for a warrior. And Riverspot was an amazing cat, and Inky Nose knew that Conifer Paw would thrive under his friend's guidance. Conifer Paw certainly knew he would thrive regardless. He was just that great, you know. But he did somewhat underestimate how boring sorting herbs could be and studying all day was. It turns out being a medicine cat apprentice is a lot of sitting in the medicine den and learning. Pretty boring, honestly, and he likes to move a little bit more than, a snail. Luckily, Riverspot was very understanding of him and turned his studying into games. Matching games, hide-and-seek games, looking for herbs became scavenger hunts. It was pretty amazing. And when Elkpaw, his sister, got hurt, well, he got to help heal her! I mean, admittedly, it was mostly Riverspot doing the actual healing part, but he was there and he helped, and it was great. And, well, maybe that should have been enough. But he can't tell the rest of his story, unfortunately. Conifer Paw would go into the forest, and he wouldn't be found till later. He'd been found dead at the border with another clan. No one knows exactly what happened. Foul play was certainly speculated, either from within the clan or, most likely, from the other clan. But why would an enemy clan attack a medicine cat apprentice? They have a treaty. They're supposed to be immune from conflict. But it was also possible it was an accident. He ate something he shouldn't have. He fell. A predator had come near. No one really knew what happened to him. But his legacy would leave a lasting mark. Riverspot would never take another apprentice. And Inky Nose? Well, Inky Nose and Popfur, they didn't know it at the time. But Conifer Paw would end up being the catalyst for a series of tragedies that would affect their whole family. Inky Nose was a lively young cat. As an apprentice, he had fun meeting every new cat he could. Fleeing one clan as young as he was, He hadn't seen all of the horrors that it could give, but he had a head full of dreams for what the future could be, what kind of cat he would be. A brave, grand warrior that changed the tide of time. It made sense that, of all the mentors, Windfern was the one given to him. She was experienced, strict, and grounding. Exactly what a cat like him needed. While Swiftclan in the early days was small, it allowed him to make friends that would last a lifetime. Riverspot and Blacksong especially were some of his closest friends. And when Blacksong died, Inky Nose felt rage at StarClan for taking him too soon. Riverspot helped guide him through the grief and reminded him that even when a cat is gone, in StarClan they will always live on, and to grieve and to hate is to waste their memory. Becoming a warrior was a great achievement for both Inky Nose and for the clan, for he was the first warrior to be named in Swiftclan. It was a title he wore with pride and a responsibility he was sure he would live up to. He would be a great cat. His future was bright. And it only got brighter when the deputy of all cats, a cat he admired, respected, and maybe had a little crush on, asked to be his mate. Inky Nose was delighted to say yes. He was excited to share his future with Popfur. Being given an apprentice is a big responsibility, and one Inky Nose is proud to take on when Tadpole Paw is presented before him. The honor of training an apprentice, of being that guiding light for another cat, was a whole new challenge for him. But as he sits there and sees Tadpolefoot be named a warrior, there's nothing that quite compares to the feeling of accomplishment. Then he falls pregnant for the first time. A part of him knew that was certainly a possibility. It's just not a part of him that had really considered what it would mean, how he would feel, the disconnect he would feel from his changing body and from his kittens. But Popfur was delighted to have these little guys in the world, and Inky Nose wanted to love them too. It was just a little hard. Still, as his kittens grow older, he takes every opportunity he can to be, well, away from them. Not that he doesn't love them or want to be around them. It's just he wants to be himself. And it's hard to do that when he has to take care of little mouths to feed. On one such excursion out of camp, he ends up treed with his former apprentice Tadpolefoot. Below them, a sleeping fox prevents them from escaping, but it gives them time to reminisce, to bond. For Inky Nose to remember that he is more than just he hates to say the word mother. He's more than just a cat raising kittens. But he's reminded quite drastically when Riverspot tells him that Flutterkit is going deaf. Not just hard of hearing, not just a momentary lapse of attention. She can't hear him, or anyone, or anything. Initially, he hopes that she'll go for a medicine cat role. It's the safest option. It's the one that would be easiest for her with her condition. But Flutterpaw is adamant when she becomes an apprentice that she will be a warrior. And in the face of her daughter's certainty, Inky Nose can do nothing but ask Hailstar to let him be the one to train her. He wants her to have the best chance of success, and he can make that happen if she's his apprentice. And it's not to say none of his kits became medicine cats. Coniferpaw, surprisingly the one that he was most certain would become a warrior for his outgoing nature, is the one who ends up in the medicine den. It's a bit hilarious, really. Though when Coniferpaw dies, any amusement ends there. It seems cruel that a kit should die before its parent, and Inky Nose doesn't even know how Coniferpaw died. No one in the clan does. And worse yet, Flutterfreckle, who had only just been named a warrior in spite of her condition, soon follows her brother. She died a hero, sure, saving Yellow Ember from fire, but Inky Nose would prefer her to be alive than a dead hero. After that, it seems like there is nothing that can stop death. One by one, many of his kits die, until his whole first litter is gone. But he had more litters than just the first one. litters with Popfur, and litters with a new mate in Yellow Ember. Not all of them survived either, and Inky Nose learned not to get too attached. When Riverspot dies in a fire, there's no medicine cat left, and Hailstar, well, she steps down, and then Popfur becomes Popstar, and Inky Nose finds himself mated not only to a strong cat, but to a leader. It's a different kind of responsibility than he would have expected. And while he is proud of Tadpolefoot as a warrior and as a friend, he's not entirely certain that Tadpolefoot is suited to be a deputy. But when the brown tabby Tom offers him comfort after another kit dies, Inky Nose accepts. As yet another litter nuzzles at Inky Nose's belly, he tries to muster up the courage to be hopeful, to see that bright future that he once dreamed about as a kid, to be the cat that he once wanted so badly to be as an apprentice. But he doesn't know if he can. He feels hollowed out, empty, supported only by the cats around him who love him. But even then, he feels almost like he uses them. He wanted a bright future once, to be the grandest warrior who would change the fate of time, to be a part of a clan that was greater than any that he had ever known. Swiftclan has grown. It's strong. But this isn't what he imagined. Field Dazzle, alongside his littermates Flintbrush and Rhyme Curl, were born to the leader Popstar and the medicine cat Inky Nose. They were not the first litter born to Inky Nose, and it showed. Popstar, being a leader, was far too busy to spend much of his time with his kits, though it could be said that he did try. Inky Nose, however, burned from the death of far too many kits in the past, was an absent father, only there for the duties required of him, and nothing more. Thirdly, Yellow Ember, supposedly their honorary third parent due to his mateship to Inky Nose, well, since they weren't of his blood, as far as he was concerned, he had no duty towards them at all, something that caused a bit of resentment in the litter. But as a kit, young little Field Kit was less aware of these issues. They stemmed from his kithood, sure, but he didn't understand them as that. Instead, what he understood was he was a kit without supervision, one who wanted attention and was not getting it. And so he did things that, well, he really shouldn't have. One such thing was sneaking out of camp, alone, without telling a single cat where he was going, and where he went was to the river's edge. Entranced by the rushing water, he crept closer and closer, till he slipped in. Flailing, gasping, he tried to swim, but the current was too strong, and he far too small. Had Thistlewhisper, the warrior, not followed him in secret, and thus fished him out of the river, not saved him, he'd have drowned that day. It was a hard lesson learned, but a valuable one nonetheless. And perhaps his stunt got him attention after all, for when it came time to be an apprentice, his father Popstar assigned him to none other than Droplet Burrow, the fiercest, strongest, and most intimidating warrior in the entire clan. Droplet Burrow himself was a presence that Flintpaw, at the time, simply could not match up to. He dreaded training, feared patrols, and jumped at the sound of his mentor's voice. Not because Droplet Burrow was a harsh mentor, but rather because Evermore Fieldpaw wasn't sure he was meant to be a warrior at all. And to try to live up to the glory of Droplet Burrow, it was all the more humbling and humiliating. He wasn't relieved, per se, when Droplet Burrow got injured. He would never want a clan member to be hurt, certainly not for his own selfish means. But as his mentor spent time in the medicine den, Fieldpaw suddenly had a reason to be there too, and when he was, he found he enjoyed what he saw, what he learned. and approached Inky Nose, his own father, about becoming a medicine cat apprentice. Frustratingly, Inky Nose hesitated. An absent parent he was, and perhaps this was the further extension of that absentiness, a desire not to be attached. Fieldpaw didn't really know at the time, but he was determined to become a medicine cat, and once his father agreed, he had finally found his place. As he grew older, Fieldpaw learned about the stories of Coniferpaw, a brother he never got to know, and a cat that clearly had left his mark on his parents. But despite the worries that such a fate could happen to him as well, he made it. He earned his medicine cat name in Field Dazzle, and was proud of it. And it couldn't have come too soon. For Inky Nose soon fell pregnant once again with a new litter, and gazing down at his new siblings, Field Dazzle hopes the best for them. But he wonders, and he worries. Could the curse be true? Flintbrush has been mentioning to him, hearing Popstar say odd things, as if he's speaking to cats who aren't there. And he has observed that Inky Nose has been struggling a lot. They worry for their parents, and they worry for their new siblings. They worry for the clan. If the curse is true, then the future is going to be hard. But if the curse isn't true, what happens then? Fluffykit and Flaxkit are born as our 100 moons in Swiftclan come to an end. Kits of the leader Popstar and the medicine cat Inky Nose. Hopefully their future will be brighter than some of the siblings that have come before them. And with that, we have finished with the medicine cats of Swiftclan. I hope you enjoyed the video. The next one out will be about the mediators of Swiftclan, and then we'll get into the meat of it with the warriors. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and be creative. Bye!